to my show still.
Really?
Oh, trying to sneak a recording in on me, huh?
Gotcha. That's some interesting stuff right there. Like, I'm not letting this go. Hey, welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
You sure are. Anything else you want to tell us about Merle Garrison today?
Nope. No, just
So I thought I was going to get you on that one.
You almost did. I saw it come up there, man. All right, now first things first. Are we side by side?
Yes.
All
as
right.
soon as you
Good
came
work.
on, I hit it. Yes.
Nice job, Barry.
I know.
I'm proud of you, man.
I got to take these things on for myself.
No, you're making good progress, though. And you know what? That's called empowerment.
I should feel empowered.
Yes, exactly.
If I were protesting and rioting, would I feel empowered?
See, that's the thing, is that's what this is all about, as far as I'm concerned, is that people need to be empowered to do things for themselves instead of waiting for a handout. So look at you, man. I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you. So all kinds of accomplishments. It's the Over 50 Starting Over mantra, where we take things upon ourselves, take our lives in our own hand, grab the bull by the horns and spit in his face. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yes. So the saga goes on. Did I tell you last time that I got this I did, about the camera saga.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I want to get this
camera.
New external camera.
Right.
And I got this crappy piece of plastic from China.
Yeah.
And sent it back. I got my refund. And they don't even want it back.
What?
They don't want it.
It's that bad. They don't want it back. I don't blame them.
I ordered yet another one, and then got notice that it's going to be out of stock for foreseeable future. And so I ordered yet another one, lower end than I wanted to go. But all of the best cameras that I'm looking for are out of stock. So
what is up with that?
I really don't know. You know what? I think everybody's doing a podcast now.
Wow.
That's what and everyone's on Zoom now. So these are large. True. Yeah. And they always had the built-in microphone, which I don't need. We have great mics,
Right.
So yeah, I think COVID has a lot to do with that.
You might be right. That sounds great. I was worried maybe it was the supply chain from China, that's how they're trying to get us.
Yeah, and they could be all dropping like flies from COVID too.
Have you seen that? That's some pretty crazy sounding stuff.
What is going on there? Because I don't know what to believe coming out.
I don't know what to believe either. It's like they tell us these things. You almost want to believe the opposite when it comes out of China.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Well, I have been making.
Anything you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Father's Day, actually, which was last week. I had a great one. And turns out the greatest gift is just spending time with your family.
Oh, sure.
And I had a really good time. But my kids are so thoughtful. They got me a couple of really cool shirts. I'm not wearing one of them right now, but
very thoughtful of you in return.
Yeah, but you'll see at least one of the shirts on a future podcast here.
Oh, yeah.
And just, it was a great time to not only receive love from my family, but I had a chance to talk with my kids about my own father and how blessed I was to have a dad that he was a hard guy to grow up with, but that by design, that was such a good thing because he really helped me to become the man that I am. And we talked about empowerment before, but he was the kind of guy that if you wanted something, even though he had the means to go buy something for you, he would say, hey, if you want it, work for it, go and get it. Mm-hmm. And you'd have to figure that stuff out. And another thing that he said frequently was that nobody owes you anything. So don't be standing around expecting somebody to give you anything.
Is that how he said it?
Go out and get it. No, he didn't say it exactly like that. There were some swear words in there.
Right.
You remember this, don't you?
I remember all of the stories. And I want to say that it seems like I had this conversation last weekend with my friend Irby, who just found out, on top of everything else, you recall, some bad news came out a couple weeks ago. So I went over on Father's Day. He's been really sick lately, and literally he just texted me about a half hour ago and said, found out I need to have my gallbladder removed.
Hmm.
And at first I was like, oh my God. And then I told Lisa that right away, and she's like, oh, thank God. And then I looked it
Yeah.
up, and guess you can get along pretty well without your gallbladder. It's something about your liver regulates bile, but I think you're going to just have some more infrequent bathroom habits after, from what I
Oh,
read.
okay.
But all
Something you
things
could live
considered,
with. Yeah.
I thought the worst last weekend.
I
He was
remember.
really, really in the dumps. Yeah, I actually called you to ask for a prayer, and the next day he was a lot better. I wasn't even worried about him after that. I'm telling you, man, I reach out to you when the shit hits the fan for a prayer, and it does work miracles. Hey, we
Well,
could sell those on here,
it's not me.
I know.
It's all the Lord, and
I know.
I'm just he loves you, and the power of prayer is I'm speechless on that one because
Mhm.
I've seen mountains move.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, anyways, glad that things are improving for Irby. That means a lot. But it was back to Father's Day. I said that the conversation that we had was, he goes, "Have you ever watched?" We were talking about fathers, and he goes, "Have you ever watched that show F is for Family on
Hmm.
Netflix?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I watch it all the time." It's by a comedian, Bill Burr. It's a cartoon, and it's all about based on his childhood with his father, who was just always super angry. It was just always, I'm going to put you through a wall, to his kids and stuff like that. It's really exaggerated, but funny in that way. And I said to him, it seems like all of us had fathers like that in the 70s. That's the way the 70s were. They grew up watching John Wayne and then Archie Bunker and uh, George Jefferson and, that kind of stuff. It was expected for you to behave like a hard ass, I guess. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
Um, I certainly had the same experience for sure. But what was important is that we all got a feeling that you could move forward and get what you wanted if you earned it.
Yeah,
That's what you were saying. And I
that is the
wanted to,
message.
yeah, yeah,
And,
that's
and
very important.
my dad lived that. I mean, here he
Yes.
was. He grew up in West Virginia. He had every reason to have the mentality that the world owed him something.
Victim mentality. Yeah,
He could have had that victim mentality, but here he
easily.
was. He grew up in a very poor family. He grew up in a shack. Actually, the snow blew into his house when the winter came, and his dad actually had to leave the family and move up to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because that was the only place for a black man to find a job. He worked in the coal mines. He sent money home. My dad actually couldn't go to school when he got to high school because the school wouldn't allow him to go to school because he was black. He had to go to work. He worked in at an auto repair place. He worked other jobs. His mom worked. He had to provide for the family in order for them to eat. And his mother, at the same time, never would accept any type of welfare. She didn't want to accept the heroin of welfare and be hooked on that.
Think
And
about that. The
it's a huge
foresight,
thing.
the insight that she had on that. It's very true.
Very, very wise. And these were
Mhm.
things that my father saw. And the whole time she was telling him, and he was one of, I believe, 8 children. He was one of the youngest. She was telling him that he was going to go to college. None of them had gone to college. No one in his family had gone to college. And there was no way that he could have gone to college. There's no way they could have afforded it. After Brown versus the Board of Education passed, allowing schools to be desegregated, he actually went to school and was the class president all 4 years. Crazy.
Wow, that's
Um,
insane.
he got a basketball scholarship and went to Miami University in Ohio. Great school, and graduated from school. Went on to so he did it on his own, and he went
He
on
found a
to
way.
He did. He found a way. You know, when parents are instilling belief in you, your brain acts differently, and his
Hmm.
certainly did.
Hmm.
He became a school teacher out of college. He ended up moving over to the Bell system, and at the end of his life, he was a vice president for Ohio Bell. It had become Ameritech at the time, and he was managing the labor negotiations between the company and the Communication Workers of America. I saw him on TV every night, and here's a guy that was telling me and my brother, if you want it, go out and get it. And he was also telling us that we could do anything that we set our minds to. And he also said these were frequent things that he said. He
Hmm.
also said that one day that we would be better than him at everything that we do. And
God,
this
that's amazing.
kind of belief that he put
Mm.
on the inside of my brother and I remember seeing him being picked up by limousines. He was going to be whisked away to a place where a helicopter would pick him up and then take him
Wow.
off to some airport. He'd go off to some important business meeting. And he was telling us, you know, I was going to be better than him.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
you know what? He was an amazing father. And you know, I just wanted to honor him on this past Father's Day. And I was telling my kids about this, and I was saying, you know, I want to be a good dad to you and tell you the same things and
Hmm.
instill those things in you, because these are the absolute truth. And I believe in you. You know what? I have two wonderful kids in Brandon and Hallie, and they have uh, taken their own empowerment and done their own things. And they're both
Nice.
working and they're both making money and they're both successful in what they're doing. And you know what? I'm blessed because I don't have to worry about them. Things are going to
Right.
work out for them.
Right.
They have God in their hearts, and they have victory mentality and not
Mm.
victim mentality. And today we look at
It's
this world
everything.
and
It's
what's
everything.
happening out there, and we're seeing some extremely crazy things. I saw this.
Hold on, hold on. I'm sorry.
Go
I
right
want to
ahead.
go there too. There's a
Yeah,
lot there.
yeah,
First, I want to capitalize on, but before we get into all the current events and all that stuff,
yeah.
but I want to say what you're saying is it's, as a parent, if you have nothing, you still have a message to deliver to your kids. And
Boy,
so
that's
if
the
you're
truth.
the one to start off with the feeling of belief and to not fall into, to speak against the victim mentality, you will change the generation of your family, the generations to come of your family, because that offspring will go ahead like your father and find a way and then instill that. It could change generations of people. And
Absolutely.
it's just not buying into this victim mentality. But I never got into the O5O segment. Our introductions just got right into heavy stuff. And I wanted to say that for today, I wanted to talk about lead magnets for a moment. And they're extremely important if you're getting yourself positioned online. And a lead magnet is a freebie, something that you can give to your audience that provides them value. You know, our audiences think a lot about where they put their email address. There's a lot of distrust out there. So in order to for them to give you their name and email, you have to win some trust over. You have to have, first of all, information on your website that shows how you differentiate from the competition. I'm working on this site right now that, and Lisa's like, I'm tired of hearing about value propositions and stuff. You're always talking about it, but it's so hard to get someone's appropriate message, their unique way of positioning themselves, communicate from that place in everything that you talk about from there on. You have to figure things out. I spent a day writing out uh, the way that I propose this guy, this consultant guy positions his services in a unique proprietary way. So I proposed it. It's like, you correct me where I'm wrong, but we need to develop this unique proprietary way, because from there, I want to develop a quiz that we can put out online, put out in the footer of the website, but push out on social media, because today in social media, we could push it out to exactly who we want. And in that, regard. We're looking for VP of operations, people like that, pretty high up. They're on Facebook. And we could get that quiz in front of them that is, what's the top 10 ways for you to increase the productivity of your team? Something like that. And as they go through it, one question by one, we rate where they're at within our proprietary system. This is my point. This is where we start earning the trust. It's a free quiz. Basically, as I told my client, what it is, it's like your initial free consultation. When somebody calls you for an initial free consultation, you're sizing them up right there. You're asking them these questions. Well, by the way, people love quizzes. They're very highly effective.
They do?
Mm-hmm.
Remember in college, it's a quiz. Boy, that makes me want to throw up.
Different kind of quiz.
Okay.
Yeah. When you're online these days in social media, the quizzes are very effective. They generate
interesting.
Yeah, they generate curiosity, and people want to see where they're rated all the time. And they'll exchange their email address for that answer. At first, they don't. A lot of people don't know what they're getting into. Oh, I'll answer that. Oh, I know the answer to that one. Then at the end, they're like, oh, to get your results, I need to give you my email address. Well, I just went through all that. So, okay. It's just an email.
That's funny. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I just took a Civil War quiz and the same thing happened. And I was like, forget about it.
Did you really? See, I'm surprised. You're one of the, on the lower end of the spectrum.
I knew I got them all right.
I bet you did too. Okay, I just want to mention some other very effective freebies that you could use for what we call lead magnets. Now, again, I want to stress that a lead magnet is important so that you get their email address, because that's the number one most effective way to market. Just pushing out an ad on social media to say, hey, buy my stuff, you're wasting your money. That's direct advertising. Direct advertising doesn't work online. So you need to create a funnel. I talk about funnels to a very rudimentary degree on here. Sometime I'll get in the future, I'll get more in detail. But it's important to ingest one little thing at a time. And so a free lead magnet is the most important thing to start wrapping your head around. As I said before, you have to start figuring out what you're the expert in first before you can even make the thing. While you're trying to make the thing, you start having to do research, and they're like, okay, and it's all starting to come together for you. So other things you could do for lead magnets this is huge, a free webinar. All right. It's easy to do today. We're all familiar with Zoom now, and you can record a well-structured webinar. And the general structure to that, this is saying like you got some online training material that you want to sell. A good free online webinar is about the best way to go. So you go on Facebook, you purchase an ad advertising your free webinar that teaches you how to, let's say in my case, how to create your own value propositions and niche down to your best self online, so that you in turn generate the highest customer growth that you can. Free webinar. And so what you do for the first 45 minutes is tell people how they're going to benefit from using your stuff, all the different ways it's going to make them better. And then maybe give them yet another lead magnet, such as a top 10, a checklist. Here are 10 things that you can do to improve things right away. And so they feel like they're getting value. The last 15 minutes of it, you're totally doing a sales pitch for your paid training material. So they feel like they got some value, some real value, and they feel psyched up and good and trusting about what you're offering because of the 45 minutes that you spent with them. You're basically giving everything away but the secret sauce. All right, so you're getting a lot of buy-in there. Other things, like I said, the quizzes. Quizzes are great. An online video training series where you can take them through automated emails where they get one free video training a day for 4 days and whatever. That's not that hard for many of us to do. You could do it with your smartphone, but you need to get on an email program like MailChimp or something like that. You could use MailChimp for free up to 2,000 emails a month. It's really nice. So think about that for nurturing that email list. Other things like giving away free tools. At codecanyon.net, you can buy some free online tools for like $10. and then give them away as a lead magnet. There's no sweat, no stress off you. So that's a good thing to do. Then you got your basic PDFs that you could create yourself, the ultimate guide to whatever industry you're in, resource guide to whatever industry you're in, a checklist I mentioned before, and so on. So that's what I wanted to get out there. It's just the number one thing that you need to do to get some buy-in, get them in the top of your sales funnel. And another thing you can do is you could go on to over50startingover.com and check out our offer for Neil Howe's, what's it called? Ask the Expert formatted book. You can write your own book. He'll help you do it within a few hours of your time. You'll get 50 published copies, about 60 pages. It's in the Ask the Expert format. So it's a great giveaway for networking and for using a PDF version as your own lead magnet. So you can check that out on over50startingover.com. Also go on there and go to our what's this called? A podcast. Go to our podcast post, leave us a message, leave us a comment, and just sign up for whatever platform that you like, whether it's Apple Podcast, Google, or whatever. Okay, I'm talked out for a bit there.
Wow, that was good. So wait a second. Let me just go back. Lead magnet. That is, let me make sure I got that right. That's the thing that causes the listener, after they've gotten some type of value, to want to give away their contact information.
Yes, it's correct. It's what you use to say, I'll give you this for free in return for your email address, because it's something enticing, even if it's just, it could be a one-page PDF checklist, or it could be a series of 4 videos dripped out via email, but it's a video training for 4 days, 4 phases of it. So it could be really little or more complex, but it just, whatever it takes to add value. Then when they're on your email list, you should be giving them periodic blogs, or such as what we do, podcasts, some kind of freebies that continue to add to what they're finding valuable. And then the occasional, hey, so if you're interested, we got this for $49.99 as well, to take you to a whole nother level. Yeah.
Right. I've seen
soft
that.
sell. It's the ultimate soft sell. It's a sales funnel. That's
okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like a magnet that you put on your refrigerator.
Thanks for clarifying that. I hope I didn't deceive anybody on that one.
No.
Cool.
I was just being silly. What was that thing? Chimp something?
MailChimp. MailChimp is about the best free email list manager that you can possibly get on. You could send out to up to 2,000 emails to your target audience for free every month.
Okay, I just wanted to make fun of the name though, MailChimp.
Everything's a chimp or a dog.
Ridiculous sounding.
Chimp or a dog. Yeah, dogs too. Everything's dog, something dog. Oh, chimp's used all the time now, I think.
Yeah. I wonder why.
I don't know.
Because it's so easy a chimp could do it.
There you go. I bet that has a lot to do. And the dog thing, everybody likes dogs.
I love dogs.
Oh, we both love dogs. And I'm throwing a little more hints out there. I think Lisa and I are getting a little bit closer.
Are you really? Good for you. I love that.
I think so.
I wanted to go back and just say, I love your advice about niche market and being the expert in your niche market. Your assessment of competing and having your niche and being the expert, as opposed to competing by lowering your price. Spot on. Great everything right there, Barry.
Because this can make sense to people when you understand it, is all those other services that you're afraid all those other people aren't seeing. Once you get in there with what you're best at, those few things, they'll buy, and you prove yourself and they're happy as hell with you, they'll ask you what else that you offer.
Well,
And
there's
there's
a
all
premium
those
for
other,
that type of thing. I mean,
yeah,
that you know that you're getting the best, and people will pay a premium for the best when they know it's the best. And I just
correct.
think that's just great advice.
I appreciate that, Merle. I cut you off short a little bit. You were segueing from, we were talking about Father's Day and the importance of parenting and just sending a good message. You're about to
Absolutely.
segue that into something.
Well, first off, I wanted to say I got a new mug here, and this is my peace squirrel right here. I don't know if
And
you can see that
Lisa,
right there.
Merle is talking to you because Lisa's told me before that I think you used a Christmas mug or something forever. She's like, he's always using that Christmas mug. Was it a Christmas mug?
It's you know, it's funny that it is a Christmas mug, but it's
Mm.
actually got the it says peace on it, and there's a dove, and that is represents the Holy Spirit. So
Mm.
it's not just for Christmas, but yes, I've been using that. But you know, it's gotten worn out. So Anne Marie bought me this mug for Father's Day. And just
Oh,
shout out to Anne Marie. It's got a little squirrel on there. He's actually making a peace sign. So
oh,
it's
that's awesome.
we're
Love it.
back to
Now,
peace again.
my mug that you always see that I've used ever since the inception of this podcast, I have a backup that I've recently ordered. This is my third one. And I love this mug because, and I know people that are listening, it's a glass mug with this rubber coating over top of it and a
Uh-huh.
wooden thing. It's like a sippy cup with a straw in it. Because first of all, I can't spill it when I'm half asleep in the morning. But the other thing, it's microwavable. It's glass.
Oh,
It's not
right.
plastic.
Right,
So,
right.
right. So that's important. And it's slightly insulated. So in the winter, the coffee stays or tea stays
I thought it was so
warmer.
that we couldn't see your booze in there.
That's what it is. Well, vodka's clear anyway. So you would,
Oh, there you
yeah, it
go.
looks like water. So yeah, you would think, wouldn't you?
No. Hey, so what I was going to talk about is this movie that I saw that came out on the 19th and Juneteenth, and that's why he came out with the movie on Juneteenth, which is the anniversary of or really the celebration of freeing the slaves. But Larry Elder came out with a movie called Uncle Tom, and it's a movie regarding Black conservatives. And I highly recommend this movie for anybody to take a look at. I think it's an eye-opening movie. By the way, I love Larry Elder.
Dude, I was just going
Um,
to ask you, I know that name, but I don't know from where.
He is a Black conservative talk show
Mm.
host, and
Uh,
a lot of the statistics that I come up with, I've learned from him.
mm,
And so, you know, when you take a look at what the media has created about the Black oppression here and police brutality, he destroys those facts by giving what the data really is out there. And you know, it's interesting. He kind of reminds me of my father in
mm.
his story and the way his attitude is. But this movie came out. You can get this online. I just watched this, and some of the themes had to do with the history of the Democratic Party, which we've talked about in the past. But there are a lot of surprises that I think would be eye openers, and the failure of the Republican Party. And, you know, we've talked about this too. And my whole thing is that, you know, I'm not happy with either party. I'm not happy with what they've done and what they've created out there. And also the Civil Rights Act and how that had actually worked to steal the man out of the house. And
Mm.
how before the Civil Rights Act, the 80% of Black families had a mom and a dad in the house. And after the Civil Rights Act passed, that's actually almost reversed. About 75% of Black families
I,
don't have a dad in the house. Go
I
ahead.
got to ask you, what in that act did that, promoted
It
that?
incented, that's a great question. It incented uh, uh, people in the Black community to not get married. You're actually incented, if you're a woman, to have children without a man in the house, because if the man is there, you're not going to get that check.
Mm. That we've talked about that before. I didn't realize that's when that came up. And also, Merle, I don't know what the name of this movie is.
It's called Uncle Tom.
Oh, okay,
I may
okay.
not have mentioned that. So
Do you
it's
know
a crazy
when?
name.
What
Yeah, go ahead.
year? What year?
It just came out. It came out
Oh,
on the 19th of June.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
And so it's about 2 hours long. It's a real eye opener. Here's another thing that came out of there was that slaves actually had more of a chance to grow up with a mom and a dad than a black family than black people that are growing up today.
Wow.
That's sort of
I don't know what else to say to that except wow.
that's some crazy stuff right there. But anyhow, get the movie. You'll be surprised and what you learn in that movie. There's some great people on that show. Candace Owen is featured on the show as well, and it's some great information. And I think that it'll turn upside down the narrative that we're seeing on television today.
Hey, if Candace Owen is on there, I'm in. I respect the heck out of her. I really do.
Yeah, she's a prominent feature in that movie, but lots of other very good speakers in that movie, and it's entertaining, it's eye opening, it's shocking, and I think that it's a different way to look at what's really happening out there. But as I spoke about the impact that my father made on my life, I can't imagine what it would have been, what my life would have been had my dad not been around. My mom, as great as she is, would not have been able to instill the things that I needed as a young man growing up in this world.
Right. No, I totally agree. And it's so timely with all the disruption that we have going on right now. I got to tell you, on a daily basis, I'm so dismayed with how gullible the United States people are, buying into senseless messages that are being put out there, and out of fear that we're going to be called racist. We're so afraid of these kids calling us racist that we'll go out and pander and say a bunch of things about your white privilege or whatever else that you're not going to hear that when you get behind closed doors. It's complete hypocrisy. But it's back to parenting. We were talking about that coming off Father's Day. We raised kids in this generation. Oh, they got it. We're going to be their friends. We're not going to be their parents. We're going to be their friends. And now you're afraid of them. They've been just spoiled, given everything for free and participation patient trophies up to this point, and then they go to college and are told that they don't have a chance because of these humanities classes that are telling them about all this evil white privilege, and so now they're going out and destroying things that they never worked for. They never even contributed to this economy yet. It's the same economy that gave them this privilege. And it's there's so much room for improvement, for sure.
Boy, you said so much there. It's so true that, and as a parent, it's so hard to not be just, hey, go along to get along, you know what I'm saying? Get along to go along kind of thing. It's hard to actually correct your children, and it's hard to tell them no. You don't want to be the bad guy all the time.
It's your
That's
duty.
your responsibility.
It is.
And if you don't do that, you're actually harming your child for the future.
Yes.
You have to discipline your kids. And I remember disciplining my kids. Sometimes I felt terrible having to do that. And also the fear that they're going to hate you. But you know what? That doesn't matter. If you love your kids, your love means doing the hard thing. And too many parents today are just letting their kids, you're exactly right. This leads to all of the things that you're seeing out there. And not only that, kids are going off to college. They're not getting educated.
They're getting maleducated, for sure.
They're being indoctrinated into some kind of
Marxism,
socialist program. Exactly. And today you're seeing them tearing down these historical statues. And when they talk, you know what, today, here we are. Today is what, the 25th of June. They're going to try to tear down the Emancipation statue in Washington, D.C. They're going to try to tear down a statue of Abraham Lincoln with a slave that has just been freed. And what they're saying is that the slave is in a position that looks like he's subservient to the white man.
Oh my God.
And this is the craziest thing. Here's why. First off, the statue itself is on federal property. Okay, so it's a federal crime to deface property like that. But secondly, the statue itself was paid for by freed ex-slaves. So they're the ones that bought this, and this whole Black Lives Matter movement wants to tear it down because they say that this is an offense to the whole movement of Black Lives Matter. Are you kidding me? If Black lives really matter, why would they be tearing down a statue that people that spent their lives in slavery because they were so grateful for used their own money? Now, I heard stories about a woman that her first $5 that she ever made as an ex-slave, she donated to build that statue. Can you imagine that? And they're going to just tear that down? That's insane.
Dude, I don't think most of these kids have any idea what their ideology is. They're just out there having a great time and they're going off emotion. And you know how we were when we were that age, and especially college kids. Oh, I'm supposed to protest everything and change the world. But we got parents today that are afraid of them. And
Listen,
mostly afraid of being called a racist. They've weaponized this term racist to cover anything that you disagree with. Why don't we just admit that we're all racist today, that somehow just had a 2-time black president, but now we all turn racist, okay? And as sooner that we all admit to it, then we can get back to square one and start cleaning up this mess.
that was a big subject that Candace Owen brought up in that movie, Uncle Tom, is that, although she was disappointed that with Obama's politics, she wouldn't take it back because it proves that America is not the racist country that it's portrayed to be in the media today. This president was elected by the popular vote twice. Right. And so how could it be the racist nation that it is? And I wanted to move to this point as well, is that these are mostly college educated people that are tearing down these statues.
If you call it educated.
Well, how is it that they didn't learn about Abraham Lincoln? I'm not really sure.
It? Yeah. It's indoctrination. I know that Jordan Peterson speaks up a lot about this because he's a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, Canada.
Right.
So he's in the middle of a war zone there against him, right there.
Yeah, he really is.
He speaks out against a growing number of humanity courses all the time. He says that's where the indoctrination's truly coming from. So all these humanity courses is pick your race, start learning about it, and they're going to find out where, at what point in history you're a victim, and somehow you're still a victim today. And it feeds into the whole postmodern nihilistic mentality, which is very prevalent today with college students and graduates.
I think it's so interesting. A couple other statues that they're looking to tear down and have been are statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, saying that they were slave owners. But it's interesting. You tear down a statue of Thomas Jefferson, the writer of the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. He's the one that said that we were all created equal. And that we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are the words that our whole country are built on. These are the words that ended slavery. It didn't happen right away, but these are the words that ended slavery. And at the time they were written, slavery was not only legal in the United States, it was legal in the entire world. These are the words that actually brought down slavery worldwide, and these people are tearing down the image of the very person that is responsible for the freedoms that they actually have. I mean, you take away those freedoms from the people that are doing this, and they don't even deserve a trial. They should just go to be captured and put in prison forever, never to see the light of day. That's what would happen if people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson never lived, never risked their lives to build a nation against all odds, against the most powerful military and government in world history, which was the British at the time. They risked their lives. They literally risked their necks, and they're destroying this. And you see this, Black Lives Matter movement is at the center of this. They're not the only ones that, though. These people are being sponsored. They're being funded by huge, very rich, leftist, communist, socialist groups that are out there that have their entire goal is to replace our current society with a hardcore socialist or communist one. That's
Hey,
it.
you and I both know the Black Lives Matter movement is started by three ladies that are all proud Marxists.
That's
Very public
exactly
about
right.
it. Very public.
They're not hiding it. They're
Right.
trained activists. They're hardcore Marxists. They've said that if they ever get put in jail, to burn down everything.
Yeah.
And they call themselves a peaceful movement, but yet their rhetoric is anything but peaceful. And you're seeing our towns actually being burnt down right now.
Well, that's kind of like as ironic, and we know that generation likes to be so ironic, as Antifa calling themselves anti-fascist.
Come on.
I mean, really.
I mean,
right.
These people are acting just like the fascists we've seen throughout history.
Look what's going on in Seattle. They just proved it in Seattle. And again, this whole movement is just because the adults are afraid of this generation, afraid of putting them in their place. They don't want to be called racist. Did you hear that the mayor of Seattle say something like, interviewed, well, what are you going to do about what's going on in Seattle? She's like, oh, the summer, we might have a summer of love. Well,
how about that?
A couple rapes and killings later, how's that summer of love going? It's a total fascist society right now. I don't know if you call it fascist yet. Nobody in particular rose, but people are fighting for power right now. The ones that are armed and patrolling the streets, and you have a very narrow scope that you can behave within. So there is no freedom there. And it took all of about 2 weeks to arrive at that. So that's how fast their little socialist society went down. No police.
It's interesting.
Not good.
It is not good at all. And now they're saying that now that this murder has happened and these shootings have happened, the mayor of Seattle is saying, "Oh, we're going to dismantle the Chaz," and it still hasn't happened. This happened a few days. The shootings happened over the weekend.
According to him, he just found out about this whole Chaz thing a couple days ago. And I say that half jokingly because he replied, it was about a week ago. Somebody said, well, what are you going to do about this Chaz thing? I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly. But he said, what Chaz thing? It was being.
Oh, you're talking about
smug.
The governor?
The governor, yeah.
Yeah.
It was being smug.
I saw that. Was that right? Because okay. Well, I thought that was. Look, how about the citizens of Seattle?
If you had a
Washington?
business there and you're just like, where's my government? Where's my police?
Even if you lived there, exactly. I mean, you've got shooting, you've got looting and rioting, and we're hearing reports of rape happening there, and the police can't come in. Gosh, when the guy was murdered the other day, the police tried to get in and they were attacked by so-called protesters, so they couldn't even get to the person who had been shot. My understanding is that there's a group now that's suing the city and the state.
I think I heard about
because they have not been protected. Those are their rights, by the way, is to be protected by the government. That's what the government is in business for, is to protect the citizens' rights, and they have been stolen. And for the mayor to say that this is the summer of love, how inappropriate.
Even the way she said it, it turned my stomach.
So flippantly.
Yes. Snidely. Is the way
doesn't that seem like a criminal act to turn away from your responsibility and put citizens in harm's way in the way that the governor and the mayor did? Doesn't that seem criminal to you?
Merle, everything is so backwards right now. I can't make sense of it. And that's exactly what this movement is intended to do. The whole postmodern thing is they'll go right in your face for those of them that actually do have an agenda. I think most people are just having fun because they're kids and they're just like, we could do anything. We could even tell the cops to screw off and nothing happens. We could take over cities. Nothing happens. We could destroy whatever we want. Nothing beats working for a living, That's exactly what's going on right now. So everything's so backwards right now, but the postmodern thing that a lot of these people are indoctrinated with will tell you at the very basis, they'll tell you that science does not exist anymore. You could hit them with scientific studies and fact, and they say that that's not pertinent anymore. It doesn't, just nothing, then nothing makes sense. tell you right now, nothing does make sense right now because we're letting it happen.
We are letting it happen, and that's why I was talking earlier that I'm disappointed with the Democrats and the Republicans here, because as you take a look at these cities that are having the big problems, they're for the most part, Democratic-run cities. You've got a Democratic mayor, you've got a Democratic governor, and these are people that have appointed the leaders within the cities, and you're having all this mayhem happening. And in a lot of these cities, you've got a black police chief, you've got a black district attorney, you've got a black mayor, you've got black people that are running this, and yet they're saying that black people are being oppressed. And at the same time, on the flip side of this, you've got the Republicans who are doing nothing.
You know what I think? I think that the Democrats know exactly what they're doing, that they do have a plan that has everything to do with the election coming up.
I think so too.
And it's really just waiting for the right time make Trump have to act, make him have to go into Seattle or something like that. And then, the media is going to paint that no matter what happens. They're going to find a way to paint that into a horrible, the whole militia taking over the world, the fascist government that we're in right now. And it's going to escalate everything. It's almost like he can't do anything. It's almost like that. Everything, people have to tread very carefully right now. And what is the Democrats' true end game? If you're Pelosi and Schumer, I don't know. They're pretty much at the end of their end game anyway, but what do you think is your best possible scenario? I guess just getting rid of Trump, I guess.
Well, that's what it seems to me. It seems to me that all of these different movements that are happening in the street that the Democrat leadership seems to be encouraging, it seems that they have a hand in orchestrating this whole thing.
Agreed.
That they're empowered by these types of things. And yes, we didn't see this type of movement before President Trump was elected. And you also see where in Congress, some of the stimulus packages that have happened, you see all kinds of different entitlements that are happening throughout this crisis, throughout the COVID crisis. So it is definitely a move towards more of a total socialist society where people now are completely dependent on the government for everything. You mentioned fascism. Well, that's really what fascism is. Fascists control business 100%. Business ownership is a thing of the past. What you're seeing in black neighborhoods right now, or with a lot of these fires, are black businesses being completely destroyed. So how can that be helping? How could this be about Black Lives Matter when we're burning down black businesses? We're looting from black businesses. We're destroying the places where black people work and live. More black people are dying as a result of these protests than have been killed, than unarmed black people killed by police in all of last year, in just the last few days. If you take a look at what's happened in Chicago over the last few days, or over the last weekend, you've got, let's see, I wrote it down, 70 people shot in Chicago this past weekend. 70. 11 people were killed. One of them was a 13-year-old little girl, and no protests happening about that. No. In New York City over the weekend on Saturday, there was one person shot every hour. 24 people were shot on Saturday alone. You've got the same thing that happened in Seattle. You have the same thing that's happening in Minneapolis. And these are all Democrat-run cities. And at the same time, you've got all these statues that are being torn down, and you've got police that, look at Atlanta. Look at what's happened in Atlanta. After that gentleman was killed, which is a terrible thing, by that Wendy's, and they burned down the Wendy's. Number one, we found out that it was the girlfriend of the man that burnt down that Wendy's. Number two, right now we have armed men that are patrolling around that Wendy's. They've taken over that whole area. People have been attacked just trying to drive by that area. The police are not able to do anything. Many of the police aren't going to work. They've gone on strike. So right now you've got a lawless situation. How is this ever going to end? Well, I'll tell you what, it's never going to end as long as what is exactly what you said. As long as we appease these people, it's never going to end. In fact, what's going to happen is it's going to get worse. It's just like a bully. If you don't stand up to a bully and be willing to strike back, even by using violence to strike back, and it sometimes violence begets violence, and that is the answer. That's why we have wars sometimes. If we're not willing to have a backbone against all of this violence, it's going to get worse. Every one of our cities are going to be destroyed. And that is a politically incorrect thing to do and a politically incorrect thing to say. But if we want to protect our families, if we want to protect our longevity and our posterity, we've got to be willing to take back what's ours. And I'm telling you, that might be ugly. I mean, these people that are doing these violent things and committing violent crimes and stealing from us, we might have to punch back. And that's,
for sure.
That's going to have to happen. And somebody's going to have to put on their big boy pants and make that decision, because I'll tell you, I, for one, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of
I'm really tired of it. But I'll tell you what, Merle, the Democrats are in a spot now where, and they've been playing this game for some time, even with COVID, we saw it with that. But no matter what Trump does, it's going to be the wrong thing. So if Trump goes in and starts using, I said it a minute ago, if he starts using the military, then it's going to be, oh my God, Trump is the next Hitler kind of bullshit right there. And if he doesn't do anything, then he's going to get blamed for that. No matter what he does, he's going to get blamed for it. And I think that's part of a well thought out strategy. In fact, I think their strategy is pretty damn smart, but they're a bunch of useful idiots that are executing it.
Yeah, well, I think the people that are executing are not so much idiots. I think they're using the useful idiots in order to carry out their plan. And it's funny that I agree with you that anything he does is going to be called wrong, especially by the media. So now he's got nothing to lose.
Right.
You might as well do the thing that needs to be done, because no matter what you do, if you do nothing, you're going to be called a do nothing. If you do something, you're going to be called Hitler. An interesting comparison to Hitler is that the sellout in Munich that happened when Neville Chamberlain went over there and said, oh, he just wants to take Czechoslovakia. That's all. Let's just let him have that. He's not going to do anything more. Next thing you know, World War II happens and he's trying to take over the world. Well, that's a pretty good analogy of what's happening here, is that if we let bullies, and Hitler was a bully, if we let bullies just, you can tear down these statues and burn our towns and loot and everything, it's only going to get worse. And, this whole thing about, there's a lot of peaceful protesters out there, and these people aren't the bad guys. It's these terrible people that have somehow infiltrated the peaceful protesters. Okay, I'll give you that. There's peaceful protesters out there. But if they really stand for peace, they should stand up to the people who have infiltrated their peaceful gathering. And maybe it's time to have a backbone and say, we're not going to take this anymore. And I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that at all. And I think that when you don't see that, is it really what they're saying it is? I'm having a hard time believing that. I know what my dad would say. He would say, that's some BS.
Your dad of the infinite wise words.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. Go wherever you want with this. I want to just mention some kind of cool news that I saw in the news this morning. Lordstown Motors in Lordstown, Ohio, formerly a GM. You saw that? GM plant? Let's see. Once built the now discontinued Chevy Cruze, nearly 1,700 jobs were at stake until Lordstown Motors stepped into the picture. And today, that is today, we're seeing the first product in pre-production form, the Lordstown Electric, I said this all wrong, Lordstown Endurance It's an all-electric pickup truck. And the concept pictures and stuff I saw of it look really cool. Being unveiled this afternoon, probably could Google images on it right now and see the real thing. Big ceremony taking place today. Vice President Mike Pence is there, and so is the Secretary of Energy, Don Brillo. I don't know how to say his last name. Secretary of Energy.
It's Dan, and it's a French name.
Yeah, there you go.
Bud. Dan, French name.
Yeah, Bud. You should say, Merle and I have this ongoing inside joke. We know how much we butcher names. We've done it classically throughout this podcast. And we had a moment where we talked amongst ourselves. We should just call everybody Bud. We bring a guest speaker on. Hey, Bud, how are you? And we'll just stick with that. We can't screw that up. There was the one time I introduced myself as Merle Garrison. So yeah, we can't get it right. So
but anyways, I love that story. That's such a great story. And cool. I remember when Trump took over in office, that was one of his targets was bringing back the manufacturing jobs. That place was going to become a ghost town and ruin the whole area.
I hope it catches on, man. I really do.
Yeah.
All electric
that's
pickup
very, very hopeful. I really love that.
It gets like 250 miles to the charge. I think that's a great start. I had a thought today. I heard that as soon as I woke up in the morning. I went to the gym. I'm thinking about that. And it's like, what if these electric cars, like obviously Tesla and now this, and I remember a while back I was telling you how much I hate gasoline engines, whether it's my snowblower or a weed eater or a car, whatever. I can't stand gasoline engines anymore. I would love to see us go all electric. How about if we gave government grants to like the rent-a-car industry? So they went electric, because I'm a big proponent. I'll say to anybody that asks, they say, how do you get your best deal on a car? Buy one 3 years old that's coming off leases, and most of them are coming from rental car places. Mm-hmm. You get really good deals that way. Well, what if they were giving government grants to use electric cars? For one, the American public would get used to it. And another, that would put a more cost-effective electronic car on the market. And you know what then happens? The batteries get even better, which is always our biggest stumbling block with all this stuff. We got trying to get the batteries smaller, This could be big.
It could be. I like the idea of the rental car agencies looking for a better way. I'm always leery when it's infusing our tax dollars into that whole thing, because that means that I'm actually paying for the rental car without actually renting it.
No, I know what you mean. Just throwing it out there as an incentive.
It is. It's a great idea, and I think that they should always be looking for that kind of thing. I find that when the government gets involved in these types of things, the efficiency factor goes down about 98%. And so therefore you end up with not the thing that you were looking for, but it becomes politicized. So, but I like how you're thinking. I still like how you're thinking on that whole thing. We've been burned so many times on this whole thing too.
I hear you. Yeah. Just an idea. And again, on a lighter note, you could take over after this, but at some point I was handed from Lisa moments of improvement opportunities, apparently for me. Got a short list here. Perhaps you can just directly place your used tea bags in the garbage versus leaving them in the sink for me to fish out. Exhibit 1 attached. She has a photo that she obviously took with her phone. Number 2, likewise, used coffee filters can go directly into the garbage. No need for a temporary resting place in the sink. Now, that is not exactly true. You tell me that they smell in there. She smells like a dog. Her senses are she has hyper senses. I swear to God, she can hear my heartbeat. Okay, last one. Onion skins tend to smell very bad when left in the garbage disposal. Remembering to run the disposal every time instead of every other time would be wonderful. With love and appreciation, Lisa. I don't know. Wow. So this apparently, I see the theme. It's abuse or neglect of the garbage disposal.
Yes.
I thought I was being pretty thoughtful. I try.
Well, you know what they say, behind every good man is an even better woman.
All right. Well, I'll just have to take your word for that because as hard as I try, I just keep thinking I'm going to hit some kind of ninja status if I can ever find full compliance with all the rules around here.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I used to live with you, and you actually were very, like, you had your own rules.
Oh, compared to you, I did. But
Yeah.
geez, yeah.
I'm telling you. Well, yeah, poor Anne Marie, right?
Well, yeah. You know, the one thing I used to make iced tea all the time with the tea bags, and you would drink all of it and never make any, ever. Like I couldn't get a sip of it. Yeah, I couldn't get a sip out of
it. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, real funny. Well, it was like a big process because it has to cool down. You can't just make the tea and then throw ice in it, gets bitter. So it has to cool down. So I'll go off to class or something and it's gone.
It was just like all the time. Look at like, oh man, when is it going to be cooled down? Oh, it's cooled down. I'm so thirsty.
Of course you're thirsty because you kept the place at 85 degrees.
Because
I would come back. I'd come back for class. I'd open the door, be like, whoosh.
Really? I see. I'm not like that at all. I love it to be cold. I like it to be like 70 degrees at the highest now.
Since when?
Something's happened there.
Something definitely happened. I mean, funny. My God, we had cactuses growing in there wild. Yeah.
That's wild. I see. These are things I don't remember. Huh.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I'm back to you again.
Well, Lisa's dogging on me. I got a dog on you, I guess.
Yeah. I see how that's making you feel better, but you know, I know in my house, I have a reputation for no matter what I do, I'm going to leave crumbs. You know, there's crumbs. I try, Barry. I try to make sure. Okay, I made a sandwich. Let me get all the crumbs. Somehow there's still going to be crumbs there. I can't help it. But
you know, it's way worse here. You know what her big thing is here? I'm telling you about her heightened senses. Have you ever seen that show or the movie way back when, Daredevil, about the superhero?
Oh, yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah, because he's blind, but all of his other senses get heightened. That's her nickname. She has these heightened senses. So her big thing isn't crumbs. My God, I definitely wipe up. It's fingerprints.
Really?
Fingerprints.
Yeah.
She is obsessed with seeing fingerprints. She sees them on everything. You could come here at any time of day or night, and this place looks like a stage model house, like we're trying to sell it.
Right.
But she sees fingerprints. So I'm supposed to make my lunch or whatever without leaving a fingerprint anywhere. And even when I walk out the door and back in, I can't take off my shoes because there might be a speck of dust somewhere. So I'm working on my levitation skills at the same time.
Yeah, good luck with that. You know what? She sounds a lot like my dad. Speaking of my dad again. Same thing. Same kind of thing. It's like, you're breathing up the place. You're not breathing.
Stop breathing.
What do you want me to do? Jeez.
Well, I think about it as I'm putting it together here. I think she's grooming me to be the master thief because if I can levitate, and not leave fingerprints, you know, soon I'm going to be walking through walls. I'll be able to rob a place. Maybe I should work on my invisibility skills too.
Yeah. I could see that. Well, you know what? I remember you reminded me of a lot of stuff. I remember I used to have some of my own pet peeves. My brother, I remember telling him that he was combing his hair too loud. So I mean, just
you were serious?
I wasn't. He woke me up with his. What are you doing? You're combing your hair too loud. So you know, we all have our things. You have them too, Barry.
I don't. No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I'm very adaptable. I adapt to everything. I take it upon myself. I'm a martyr. You know.
Right.
That's all I got to say about that. What else we got? We got anything else?
Well, the last thing go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to mention, last night, I always try finding a new stand-up comic that I like on either Amazon or Netflix. And I'm like always disappointed. And I'll like even try to listen to somebody who gets such rave reviews, like from comics and stuff. I'll try. I'm not going to mention any names, so I sound foolish. But there's just times I'm like, man, just can't. I guess I just don't get it. Well, anyways, last night on Amazon Prime, I found this guy, Tommy Little. His name's Tommy Little.
Never heard of him.
I did not either until last night. He's got a new special out. He's Australian. So there's a lot of terminology. You're like, what? But he's good about, and he filmed this in Australia. So anyways, he's good about cluing you in on what that term means. He recognizes this is an international special. He was really good, a great storyteller. He actually did this marathon in Antarctica. And he's like the last person that you would think would ever do that. But he told the story how he went out and got too drunk one too many times, and his friend like rescued him or whatever. And he's like, okay, yeah, maybe I've been drinking too much, and cons him into doing this marathon in Antarctica. And he tells the whole story. Yeah, he tells this whole story about it. And he paints a hell of a picture. It's funny, man. It's really funny. I highly recommend it. Tommy Little on Amazon Prime.
Tommy Little. Okay. That's always looking for a good laugh. And you know what? It's hard to find people that are truly funny anymore.
It really is. So many people rely on some like old stale tricks, you know, like verbal tricks. Another thing, totally unrelated, just I had a note on current events. How about this Bubba Wallace of NASCAR?
Can you believe that?
Yes, I do believe it.
I mean, really, we shouldn't be surprised, but man, they made such a big deal out of this.
As soon as I heard it, I'm like, this is the Smollett thing all over. It immediately, I'm like, wait till we hear the other side of this one tomorrow. And that's exactly what happened.
I had the same thing. It's like, okay, first off, you find there was a noose in there. Was there a note along with the noose?
Right,
I mean, somebody who does that?
Right.
Hey, I'm going to put a noose in the guy's place and scare the wadding out of him.
Cartoonish. It's too cartoonish. And that's what Smollett did. Smollett put a noose around his neck. And he thought, how dumb is that? It's like a Bugs Bunny Roadrunner cartoon. Why don't you just blow up with a fake stick of dynamite too?
The thing is that everyone gets all, you know, like amazing amounts of useful idiots get all involved in this, and this is the worst thing, and America is totally racist, and this and that and the other. I heard a commentator say this, said, you know what, I've got a message for America. America, you are not a racist country. Is there racism in the country? Yeah, but Jesse Smollett, he had to hire people out that were foreigners to perpetrate this whole crime that they were doing, because no American would ever do that. These guys said those were Nigerians. So
it would be hard to find.
People aren't like that here. The whole country is based on non-racism. That's what
very much against it.
People hate racism. Yeah,
we talked about before. We grew up all against that, watching these sitcoms like Archie Bunker and Good Times and Fred Sanford and all that. We, as little kids, we did not feel racist.
No, racism turns people's stomachs. It has for my entire life.
And you know what?
We found racists, but we all thought they were disgusting.
We did. And you know what? As we say this is what's fueling this movement today, is the fear of being called a racist. Because we all hate it. So it's so despicable. We all understand that.
How are we going to get over this whole thing?
That's what I said earlier. Just say, hey, I admit I'm a racist along with everybody else.
Yeah.
We're all racist.
I mean, if that's the standard, we all are. We are. Okay, well, let's move on then. You know,
yes, exactly.
I mean, it's almost like look at like what they're doing. You mentioned comedians. Look what they're doing to comedians nowadays. I mean, like Jimmy Kimmel. Now they're going after him. They went after Howard Stern. Oh,
Jimmy Kimmel? He's so far left, he's going in circles.
That's the crazy thing is, remember we always talk about how they eat their own?
Yeah.
They're going.
Tell me.
Howard Stern and Jimmy Kimmel going after both of those guys. Jimmy Kimmel, both of them dressed in blackface. Both of them said the N-word. But everyone has said the N-word. And who cares about blackface? Who cares about that? I don't care. I'm a black guy. I think it's kind of funny, actually.
It's just ridiculous. We're preying upon people's feelings. Or you know what? Fake feelings. For the most part. Not saying that there aren't black people out there that aren't offended by that. I'm not saying that. It's the extent that when you got to dig something up from 20 years ago to slap today's sensitivities on it, that's crazy.
Well,
That's
it is
crazy.
crazy. Well, what about, do you remember that Saturday Night Live where Eddie Murphy dresses up as a white man to see
I
what it would be
don't, but
like?
that sounds great.
Oh my gosh, it was one of the
I bet it was
funniest things
hysterical.
that Eddie Murphy ever did because he would,
Really. He's
yeah,
talented,
he
man.
gets on the bus and there's like a few black people on the bus and everybody's all subdued, but as soon as the black people get off, they break out the champagne and they're having a party on the bus, and he's like, oh, okay, starts dancing around, he goes into like a jewelry store and there's some black people in there, but as soon as they leave they're like, go ahead, just take whatever you want. But I'm just saying that was funny.
That
But
is
today I could see that ricocheting back on him, and
someday.
he
We're
dressed
not
in
ready for that yet.
yeah, he
Well,
dressed in white face.
the Wayans brothers did that with Two White Chicks or something like that. A
Oh,
movie.
that was a great movie.
I saw a little bit of it. I didn't like it. Now, by the way, wasn't offended by it, but of course, I'm just a white guy. But I was not offended by it. I just didn't find it funny. I thought it was creepy. I didn't buy it.
It was weird.
I didn't buy it.
It
Yeah.
was. I thought it was a pretty funny movie, actually.
Well,
You might
okay,
want to give
yeah.
that another chance. But
Okay.
I mean, it's why are we so sensitive? Why can't we have fun? Why can't we laugh
sense
at
of humor.
ourselves? Right?
No sense of humor now.
It just seems like we're, and it seems to be a socialist thing too. Is that
It
you can't
is.
laugh anymore? No,
It's
no more
all
funny.
of this is. We just gotta stop being afraid of these kids that are oversensitive, trying to get their attention, trying to take over things by behaving badly. They need a spanking, put in the corner. In fact, that's what didn't happen when they were kids. Is they just
I
didn't-
agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And hey, fine line between abuse and discipline, but walk the line.
Yeah, well, you don't discipline your kids out of anger. You do it out of love.
There you go.
And
That's a perfect
that's
way
what
to put
needs
it.
to happen. If you're doing it out of anger, then that's where abuse starts to happen. You do it out of love. That's when you're trying to protect your kids from getting into trouble down the line. And that's your responsibility. And it's not just your responsibility to your kids. It's your responsibility to society in general.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
look at these people's places that have been ruined by looters. If those parents had disciplined their kids growing up, those people never would have been there in the first place.
That's exactly right. So we're well over an hour, at least an hour and 10, maybe 15. Those are good parting words, but you got anything else to add?
No, not really. I mean, I still have hope. I just want to say this. I still have hope. I think we got to stand up for ourselves here. We can't let the bullies just take over. America has a rich history. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But the flag actually stands for goodness. And the flag, when people have seen this flag, good has come about it. And I think we need to come back to the unity of that whole thing. There are forces that are trying to disunify our country. And when our country is disunified, it becomes weak. I think we need to fight, much like this show, Over 50 Starting Over. We always find ways to find common ground here. And I think that we should unify under this flag. We shouldn't spit on it. We shouldn't burn it. We shouldn't kneel down to it. We should stand up. We should honor it by putting our hand over our heart. And we should then lock arms and start moving forward as a country. And I think that's how we make this country a great country, which it always has been and it always will be.
Yeah, make it whole again. Hey guys, don't forget to stop at over50startingover.com and sign up for any of our platforms. Give us a like on Facebook. You could do that from over50startingover.com too. Merle, see you next week. I can't wait.
Yeah, me too, Barry.
All right.